Hello, everybody. It's Janice Weber, and I am back to talk to you about empowering your creativity. We have our special guest tonight. Sorry, not tonight, today, which is Kendra MacLeod. And as you all know, I talk about stress less and create more. So our stress less part this morning will be about your breathing. So I've talked again and had a video up on the Empowering Your Creativity channel about the least effort breathing. So your tongue is on the roof of your mouth, where the tip of your tongue touches when you swallow, and you just breathe, feeling for the movement of your rib cage in and out. If you had found that you were stressed, then you can do this breathing and you will slowly shift it over. This is the type of breathing you do most of your day. But when we get stressed, our tongue ends up against our teeth, our shoulders end up tight, and our whole nervous system becomes agitated. We get more anxious, less focused, and all kinds of things go crazy. You'll have seen lots of this recently being talked about on the news because we are dealing with the fallout from 3 years under COVID. And often you don't get the effects or notice the effects of the stress until after the stressor is gone. I can remember that years ago when I used to play the clarinet, and I would go on stage with the whole group, play my clarinet, do a great job, and come off the stage and start shaking because I got nervous after. And I used to think that was so funny, but it was because I was so stressed before. I was just holding it together. Once the stressor was done, I could just fall apart, and it was fine because it was past and it had gone. So when you're feeling a bit too stressed, don't forget, practice your breathing, shake it off. And my new tidbit is the actual Tai Chi breathing. So you have your hands, so they bend up. They're about head width apart in front of your chest. Tongue is on the roof of your mouth, and you breathe. And as soon as you feel your shoulders having let go, you can put those down. Jesse's here checking us out. I tell everybody she's kind of my producer, director who stays in the background. Every so often she might say something or walk around just so that we know that she's there. It just makes me chuckle. That's another way to reduce stress. So that's the stress less component today. And now we're going to do my first bits on Create More. Now, my guest, as I mentioned, is Kendra MacLeod. She is a dancer, a Pilates instructor, and during COVID became a cook. Anyway, so she's going to share how did she get started in this whole Create More.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I can tell you a little bit about, how I got started in dance. I started when I was 8 years old here in Nova Scotia at Joseph Wallen School of Dance. And I loved it so much that all I wanted to do was go and study more and become a part of a dance company. So while I was living out in Banff, I had seen a dance company perform called Decidedly Jazz Dance Works. They're the only all jazz dance company in Canada. And I was like, I'm going to go there. I'm going to learn what they know and I want to dance with them. So I ended up going out there and auditioning and studying on scholarship with them and trying to get into their company, which was really hard to do. So I had a really great time. I learned so much, and I came back here to Nova Scotia. I worked for Lisa Hardy School of Dance, Halifax Dance. I taught at the conservatory. I started a dance jazz initiative program to train pre-professional and professional dancers in jazz. That was probably 3 to 4 years prior to COVID. We started that, and that was going really great. We created some shows, full-length professional jazz dance shows here in Halifax. And then COVID hit.
Yeah,
So
COVID that changed it.
yeah.
Yes.
So that pretty much just like wiped out the entire program. Not pretty much, it did. It shut everything down. Dancing went to classes on Zoom, which is very difficult to do in a tiny box from a computer. So you lost enrollment, you lost employment, everything that everyone went through. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people went through this. So I had to make a shift. So I made a shift to cooking. So I'm really passionate about health. So I made a organic, local home delivery food service. So there's lots of people with food and dietary restrictions. So it catered to that crew. And I would put up a weekly menu. I would take orders, and then I would deliver the food to people's homes. So that went
Yeah.
pretty well, but
Great salads.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And you know what? It was actually a way for me to continue to be creative, as I got to play with presentation, different flavors. You're still creating things, it just in the kitchen in a different way. So it was really good, but then food costs went way up, and things got really difficult, and I ended up working for about $3 an hour. So I was like, okay, it's time to shift, which is fine because things were kind of changing back after COVID. But dancing had kind of injured my body. I'm getting older. So I was really noticing that the repetitive movement of the same things that I've been teaching over and over for years is getting quite painful. So I made a shift to teaching Pilates, which is a restorative and like a rehabilitation type of exercise program. So that's what I'm doing now.
Okay. So you, like a whole lot of us, ended up in this whole stopped with COVID, tried to figure out what else we could do, looking at how we got older, and things aren't the same as they were before.
No.
No. So you did dancing for a whole lot. How did you find dance worked for reducing stress?
Well, for me, I just always followed my passion. So I would say that I was pretty stress-free because of that. Like I never really went to a job that I hated every day. What I was learning turned into my career, and I always felt really grateful that I loved what I did every day. So I didn't have a ton of stress. I would go to work, I would move my body, that moves energy, that lets stress come out of your body. It gets you into like a flow state or a oneness state. So I was doing that almost daily. So it's almost now that I'm not doing that daily, I can feel the stress build up, or when I was cooking and not moving, that I could really notice a change. So I definitely want to get back to moving predominantly because it moves. If it's not dancing, it's going to be in some way.
Right. So have you found any things that you do to help you de-stress now?
Yeah, sure. Well, you mentioned it right at the beginning, which was breathing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think breath is the place to start for sure. Um, it's the only gateway that you have between fight or flight or rest and restore
Mhm.
states. So you can't, there's no other option for you to get from like high blood pressure, high heart rate, um, your digestion's all upset to a nice balanced and restored state besides using your breath to get there. So definitely that. And what else do I do to de-stress? Go outside, get out in nature for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
And anything creative really for me, like I like to get out in the garden. That really helps me de-stress. Um, Cooking and being creative helps me de-stress, but moving for sure
Mhm.
definitely is a de-stressor for me.
Okay. So where are you now in your having to change from being the dancer and the dance teacher through being a cook, and now you're doing Pilates? So you have classes that you're doing?
Yeah, so I teach Pilates from a few different places. I have like a home studio out of an osteopathic clinic in Cow Bay, and I do some classes there. I do classes for seniors, um, and also some fascial stretching classes. I do another like more high energy class called Tone and Stretch that gets your heart rate up, and then also incorporate some Pilates into that. I also just started at Nature Folk, which is a really awesome little spa down in Alderney Landing. So it's a Nordic spa that has a circuit in it with infrared saunas, a hot tub, a cold plunge pool, and they have a movement studio there. So I started teaching some Pilates classes there, and
Okay.
also up in Windsor at a studio called Clifton House Wellness that will soon be Studio 22. So
Cool.
I teach in all those places, and I think Pilates is um, really wonderful for an aging body. I don't know about everyone else, but the high impact workouts, they don't work so well anymore. And after a lifetime of moving, I've got a lot of injuries and things that get flared up if I do something that's too extreme, like maybe yoga that stretches me too far beyond where I should be going.
Mhm.
Pilates keeps you in a nice stabilized and aligned position that you do a series of exercises from. So it's really great for a lot of people. They feel a lot better doing that.
Cool. All right. So one of the things that I'd found as an artist was if I de-stressed before I got into my creative side, I got there much faster because I got into the zone. And I know about the zone, having done Tai Chi for years, and that's coming up in later editions, people. Um, you get to this quiet, calm place, and it's just so neat. So is that where you would get in your dance? And where
Yeah,
you're not
100%.
dancing, what do you use to get there so you can be creative?
Yes. Well, so I could do one of two things. If I was stressed, I could go to a class or do a class, and that would get me to a state of de-stress or into the zone. But if I want to be creative, like say I'm going to choreograph something and create a piece, then I'm going to want to try to do something to get myself into that state. So it doesn't take so long to end up producing something that I want to use. So, for dance, we would usually use improv to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you would start with breathing. You would maybe start with laying on the floor, relaxing, like focusing on your feet, then focusing on your ankles, your knees, your hips, your wrists, like relaxing into the floor. Doing almost like repetitive types of movement with breath that allows you to not have to think too hard, but to really just like calm down. And then you would take a simple movement and a simple idea and not think, but just let things move to create. So if I wanted to create, that's the process I would go through first, to get into that like flow state that you were talking about. Yeah, which is a really nice place to be because you're really just present and in the moment. You're not thinking about anything else except, well, anything. You're just doing,
You're just
which
there.
is what feels really nice. You're just doing and things are happening, and you're not overthinking things, you're not complicating things. And I think that if you just stick with really like simple ideas for creation, that's kind of when great things happen, as opposed to trying to like do too much too fast or jam a whole bunch of things in. You just take a like, I'm going to move my foot like this and then see what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you very much for sharing today. This has been great. And this is going to be part of the ongoing exploring stress less and create more in our empowering your creativity. So I do hope you'll stay tuned for our next special guest. In the meantime, Kendra will send me a link so I can put that up for you if anybody has any other questions for her. And otherwise, we'll see you soon here in Empowering Your Creativity. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for having me.